Hello, welcome to WCC Wednesday. Today I am joined by, I was going to say my newest colleague, but unfortunately, or fortunately, you're actually not. The WCC keeps expanding. We keep having all these new faces show up. And so Libby is one of our newer staff members. And so I'm super excited to have you with us here today and going to have you introduce yourself. Who are you?
That is a loaded question, Brianna. I'm Pastor Libby Howe. I've been a Lutheran all my life, and I'm a member of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, the ELCA. I live in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where for the last 12 to 13 years, somewhere in there, I've been working in the bishop's office with congregations and leaders in transitions with their congregations, in crisis sometimes, doing just kind of a lot of different things because there's a lot that goes on at that level, and there's a lot to do. But stewardship ministry, fundraising, worship, programming, education, lots of different stuff. So really just love the church and love being a pastor to pastors and congregations and helping folks think about their future together.
So maybe the better question is, what hasn't Libby done? No.
Oh, there's a lot of things. I have not water skied.
Tired as you were listing off.
Yeah.
Like,
I haven't.
Ministry is exhausting.
I haven't water skied because I was never able to get up out of the water. So that's what I haven't done is water skiing. Mm-hmm. And now I live in Wisconsin, where it's winter 17 months of the year. So there's no water skiing here either. So.
Note, Libby is looking for someone to teach her to walk. No, just kidding.
Not at all.
So you are, as I said, one of our newer staff members here. Mm-hmm. Why did the council hire you? What are you doing here, Libby?
Question, Brianna.
Existential question.
I've wondered that much. No, I have not. So when I was looking at a change, I had really gone through a lot of discernment and realized that there were these areas of ministry that I have become really passionate about, and we don't always think of those areas as connected to one another. So one of them is helping Christians live out their call to work for justice and what that looks like. And then another one was helping congregations be their best, their healthiest, their most vibrant, and then leaders in the same way alongside congregations. And everything I was looking at sort of had justice over here and had healthy congregations over here, and they really didn't meet very much. But I have this feeling that one of the reasons, or that might actually be one of the things that points us to why we're in the state we're in as the church right now, that we might not be as healthy as we could be because we have not always been as attentive to that call of God to work for justice. And I sense that in leaders as well, both lay and clergy, that they feel this call, but they don't always feel like their congregation is the best place or even a welcoming place to explore that sense of call and to imagine how they might do that. So what I found with the Wisconsin Council of Churches, with courage, justice, and holy imagination, because I was sort of taking a courageous leap in imagining this position that would combine these sort of disparate things, or at least how we organize them typically. And I got to talking with Carrie Parker, the executive director, and we just started dreaming a little bit together and thinking about how a position like this, that was congregation focused, that was leader focused and justice focused, and sort of all smushed together, could advance the vision of Wisconsin Council of Churches to be a place where lots of denominations can pool resources and learn the best of one another and do things together that we otherwise are struggling to do on our own. So that's the hope for the position. And we're really in the process of building it. And the first part of that is doing a lot of listening. So I've done a lot of one-on-ones like this, but more asking the questions and learning from what others have to say. So
maybe a little less visible, like they're not usually broadcast on.
Oh, right. Yes. You're not, I'm not live streaming my one-on-one conversations. So yeah.
So one of the things you talked about was kind of like equipping leaders as they do the work, and equipping churches. And we are in the season of transition in the church. We are in the season of change. We are in a difficult season. So many pastors have and leaders have navigated the season of the COVID pandemic, but it's so much bigger than COVID. We've got polarization. We've just got the exhaustion of ministry. There's so much going on. And one of the things that we at the council have talked about is kind of how the great resignation, as the world is calling it, is also affecting the church. Mm-hmm. So many leaders that are like struggling with their call, with their identity, with their work. What does this all mean? And many folks are leaving ministry or leaving their individual churches and going to a different church. Mm-hmm. Where do you see yourself kind of in this, what's the word, context, I guess, and some of the work that you're feeling that you're called to, that we're going to be doing as a council? Where do you see that happening?
So from a really personal standpoint, I actually did resign from my previous job during the Great Resignation. So I think I have a real personal understanding of those things about ministry that can be really taxing and demand a response in terms of rest and healing and reflection about what our call really is and what it means to be the church. And so I've gone through that and I'm going through that sort of personally with a deconstruction and reconstruction. I never imagined myself not being in a parish ministry necessarily at this stage of my life. So there's that, but then there's also what I noticed about being in the synod office during the pandemic, and was a response to the question I started asking at the beginning of the pandemic, which was, what are we normally when there's a crisis, a disaster of some kind, we look to those who aren't going through it to help those who are. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I looked around and didn't see anybody who wasn't going through it. And I started to get real nervous about, who do we call on when we're all in the storm, when, who's the rescue boat when everybody's in the storm? And I still feel like that question has existed. And I think that's one of the reasons we're experiencing some of the anxiety and exhaustion we have, is because the need is so far greater than our capacity to respond to it right now, because we're still all coping. But I did recognize that I was in a position at a synodical level, at a judicatory level, that shielded me a bit from some of the really hard stuff, the in the trenched stuff that I saw other people going through. And so I felt like somebody like that would be, I thought, oh, it might be you're the one we're going to call on when we're all going through this together. People who haven't been as beat up by it, that want to be there as someone that can be counted on to be a place of refuge or a person of refuge for people that have been. So that felt to me like where, like, just sort of in a spiritual way, how I wanted to respond to that moment and to God's call. When it comes to the work of the council, I have this feeling that the council, and I saw this with the work the council was doing for COVID and helping congregations manage the immense questions and difficulties and challenges of what it meant to be gathering together or not gathering together, and how to do that well during COVID. I saw so much you were doing the thing we all needed. The council was showing up in those moments when everybody was looking for somebody to help. And so I thought this might be a good, so that's why I approached Carrie about continuing that work in this way, but moving beyond the immediacy of the pandemic and then into what this is going to mean for us going forward. And I still, and I don't know if it'll eventually get pounded out of me, but I still have hope for the church. And I don't mean that hope that we're going to come back to something we once were, but I just think this is a tremendous moment to really to have some of the freedom we haven't felt like we have had because of how tightly we were sort of ensconced in the ways of being. I think COVID sort of started loosening all those bonds a bit. So now we have a little more wiggle room to experiment and to imagine doing things not just differently, but in a way that we've even wanted to be doing things and haven't felt like we could. So, I mean, who thought that by the end of April 2020, nearly 80% of congregations in Wisconsin, which most of those are small and or rural small town places, were going to have online worship opportunities for their congregations. Everybody would have laughed if I told them that sort of in 2018. By the time you
would have said that in
2020,
January.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm really hopeful at the capacity I've seen us exhibit to, when it matters to us, make the changes we need to. And so I think we need to apply that to the other stuff that matters to us. It matters to us that we live in a world where people of color still have such a different experience than white people do in most sectors of our world. So how much does it matter to us? Does it matter enough to us to start to actually make some of those changes? And I think I've started to see glimpses of that. And my own spiritual gift, I've always claimed as encourager. I mean, sort of cheerleader for people. I have the gift of faith and encouragement. So I know that's something I bring to it. And one of the things I really want to sort of surround the actual skills that I bring with that energy and that hope. So
you gave me chills a few points as you were talking. I get that question. Like, sometimes the stories we hear about the church are so like dark and like, or just like sad and like, the church is dying. And how many times have I heard the church is dying and the church is terrible? And like this reminder that there is so much hope out there. I think as I was thinking about, as you were talking, I was thinking about this reminder that like we are, our stories about death and resurrection.
That's the thing. Like I'm a Christian, so when someone says they're dying to me, I mean, I understand the lamentable, the grief, the pain of death. I mean, that's kind of the Good Friday moment, but that's not the end of the story for us. And it's never been. And the only reason we even pay attention, and can even look back on Good Friday is because we look at it through the lens of Easter, where we know that this is not our end. And indeed, this is the beginning of something incredibly beautiful, incredibly new, incredibly hopeful. And I don't want to dismiss that, not everybody is in a place emotionally to say that yet. But I like holding that story up and saying, because we're in this together, I get to, when it's hard for you to remember this part of the story because it's so hard and dark and the struggle is so real, I might be somebody who can do that for you. And then there have been people who do that for me. I don't pretend that I'm always the one that can do that. But yeah, this present darkness is only, I only can look at that through the light that I know is breaking in. So yeah.
So if folks want to reach out to you, if folks want to, they hear something glimmery there and they're like, hey, I want to get involved. Hey, I'm a pastor or a leader, or I'm someone in my church and I want to figure out how do we kind of navigate all of this. What do they do? Because I've said, this is kind of an experimental position, and it is. There's
We are working on what's the best way to sort of roll out what Libby can provide, but I don't think we should answer that question in a vacuum. So I actually do want people, if you do hear what I'm saying, or you've read something, or you're thinking about something, to email me or to call me, because what you're saying you need and what's important for your church or your community or your pastor or yourself, if you are the pastor, or lay leaders, if you're the lay leaders. I mean, I want to say, tell me about that so that we can figure out a way forward. And that could look, I mean, there's, the sky's the limit on what that could do. And when I mean the sky, I mean, initially what one person can do, but, but we could work out a coaching agreement. We could work out putting some support groups together, and me doing the heavy lifting of bringing those folks to the same conversation. We could look at, teaching modules that I can do with workshops. I love to preach. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do. And I'm told that, pulpit supply. And then when I come to talk about the work of the council and to see, be the ear of congregations, so that the Wisconsin Council of Churches can be who and what we say we want to be, which is this place of collaboration, encouragement, joy, for all these denominations in the state of Wisconsin. So I'm excited about what people might bring to me and say, hey, we have a social justice team, or our council's really struggling, or our pastor's getting hammered because they are preaching or teaching this, or I'm really at the end of my rope. And I'm not saying I'll sort of rescue or fix any of that, but I do want folks to know they're not alone in that, and that there are possibilities for us to work together through those hard things.
Awesome. So if you are interested and want to get connected, go ahead and just comment on the Facebook page, and we will make the connections happen, so that you can be in touch with Libby.
Yeah, we totally will. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Libby.
So happy to be here. Thank you too, Brianna.